Stage 1 marks the adventure of a new Overwatch player. The game is unlike any other game they have ever played before, and they fall in love with the unique experience Overwatch has to offer.
Hiya, Tracer here.
The player dives into various games of quick play and feels overwhelmed with all of the options at their disposal, but nonetheless will likely pick the cyborg ninja character. Generally, a player at this stage will try to pick a character that they absolutely destroy the lobby on, but near the end of this stage, they figure out that the ultimate button isn't just a win button, and there is a lot more to the game than just pointing and shooting. After a few games of quick play, the player begins to recognize characters in the hero select screen and starts to branch out. Whether it be tank, DPS, or support doesn't matter, the player just wants to get a feel for each role. As they continue playing, they begin to notice that there is much more to Overwatch than their favorite cyborg ninja that they learn to identify as Genji. Come level 15, the player has a much better understanding of their favorite heroes and regresses to a state much like Stage 1, but with more variety. However, not all Stage 2 players are created equally. Some are experienced players in disguise, usually with illegitimate names like Plumberboy25 and CVT, but we will go into those stages later. Nonetheless, the player starts to explore and quench the flame of curiosity they have within Overwatch. After playing quick play for a while, the player begins to have a particular grasp of their favorite characters to play. It is at this moment that the player begins to look around the menu in pure boredom, finding new ways to play Overwatch. Sometimes this consists of messing around in Total Mayhem or finding that competitive play unlocks at level 25. If the player is particularly interested in competitive, they may realize that some players in quick play are significantly stronger than them. This causes them to look for educational content in advanced on YouTube to improve with the tedious leveling process provided by this stage. This could include macro concepts like compositions or micro concepts like practicing aim in aim arenas. Players interested in the latter concept should consider using the code VAXTA created by SETA to improve their aim and movement. This can be found in the description. After grinding quick play, arcade, and custom games for several days, the player finally gains the ability to experience competitive Overwatch for the first time. The player jumps into role queue competitive immediately and realizes that DPS queues are significantly longer than those of support and tank. This will either force the player to stop playing the game, rightfully complain to friends that may have been playing the game for a significant amount of time, or simply flex to a different role. The player realizes the importance of voice communication when playing competitively, but finds that players are much more hostile than in the quick play environment. If the player performs well, the enemy team will likely call them out for being a Smurf, while if they perform poorly, the player's team will then tell them how bad they really are, or just to tell them to switch off to Genji. It is at this stage where players figure out what they really want to do with the game. Most players, believe it or not, decide to mess around and have fun in the arcade or custom games menu, rather than sweat their way to the top ranks. Others want to flex on their friends, and some are just there to have a mix of improvement and enjoyment. A competitive player may place all of their roles and see where they placed highest and go from there, while others will specialize in a certain role from where they can start and stick with it. By looking at the skill distribution, they can find out where they are starting from and generally create certain goals for themselves to obtain. The naive player will suggest that climbing is an easy process, which makes it apparent that the player hasn't played a team-based game before. The player begins to realize that Overwatch is a team-based game and can use this in various ways. The healthy way to react is by cooperating as a group and understanding that every game is different. The detrimental and common response is to use the player's team as a scapegoat for their own incompetence. This is common for players in metal ranks and can be very difficult to break out of. After countless posts on Reddit and complaints, the player has a chance to break out of their mindset, but it must be on the player's own terms. The player isn't at a level in which they can stop players lower than they are, so there is only one path: improvement. It is on the player to take the road or not. Players that choose the path of despair have a distinct love for the game, but it is disguised by constant fits of rage when observing teammates in competitive play. It is never the player's fault, but rather the incompetent team that surrounds them. While this sometimes may be the case, it creates a mindset full of tilt and despair for the player that creates a dangerous cycle of mediocrity. Players stuck in this stage typically look for content that is a band-aid fix along with get-rich-quick schemes, as they feel as though they are better than their rank shows them and are only making small mistakes. In reality, they tend to be the common denominator, making plenty of mistakes throughout each and every game. It takes serious introspection for a player to climb out of this stage, but when they do, they will have changed their mindset for the better, creating a tranquil environment to climb. Players in the monk stage are students of the craft. They understand that no team is perfect and rather look at their own mistakes and how to improve upon them. Emotion can overtake them in the form of confusion, but they know where educational outlets reside to seek help. Players in this stage are no better at the game than the previous stage. However, their future is brighter due to their willingness to accept the improvement process and work on themselves rather than blaming someone else. Being the common denominator is okay for these players, and a sign that improvement is possible rather than a sign of weakness. These players look for the bigger picture rather than the present. It is only a matter of time for a player in this stage to climb out of the metal ranks and become a diamond warrior. The players that make up the warrior stage are typically characterized by their grind set and positive attitude. Green fills their competitive record and their practice is finally coming to light. While they may find some unlucky games, they always find ways in which they could have played better and go next. While the meta is important to these players in this stage, they will try their best no matter what to try and win. As the player approaches Masters, they will find that the small improvements they have made throughout Diamond are not giving them as big of payoffs within Masters. More time must be put into improvement in order to get increasing SR returns. It is at this point where players reach a crossroads that lead to various other stages. Much like stages 5 and 6, stage 9 derives from frustration within competitive play. Rather than the player tanking their main account's SR, they decide to purchase another account to play on. Starting in quick play, Smurfs can ruin the experience for new players within stages 1 through 3. This stage deserves its own section in the video because of the outlet it provides, creating enough diversity from the similar despair stage. By smurfing, players that struggle with being mediocre in Masters can feel like professionals in Gold and Platinum. While this may be fun for the player, it can be detrimental for the well-being of the game. This doesn't matter to players in this stage, however, as they have regressed to previous mindsets discussed earlier. While this may discourage new players, players in stage 7 will continue to stay motivated and eventually take over players in this stage with enough practice. All in all, stage 9 players impact the game negatively, but eventually get balanced out when dedicated players overtake their throne. Players in stage 10 decided to put the time into their skills and to perfect and master the game. While the neckbeard may not be permanent, the grind has definitely led to the condition at least once, even if it's only temporary. Neckbeards can still regress to other stages, but it is usually for a short time before they are back on the push to improvement. It is still possible to regress to the Smurf stage, but it is only after considerable time. Eventually, players in this stage find ways to not only apply everything they have learned into the game, but also their lives as well. Teamwork skills are incredibly important, and now that these players have names for themselves, a sense of responsibility is learned and is carried to the outside world. These lessons allow players to become the very heroes that the world could use more of, even in the real world. Thank you all for watching. I really enjoyed making this video and I hope that it gave you a few laughs. I have been posting more original content on Instagram and many shorts are on the way. You can find all of my socials in the description and I urge you to check them out. But until next time, I've got a peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.